We are here with Prime Minister Trudeau. Thank you very much for being with us today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, I know that the government industry really lobbied to get these exemptions on the steel and aluminum tariffs, but how do you make sure that they are permanent?
Well, I mean, the exemptions aren't a magical favor that was being done. We made the point, and the true point, that the integration of our steel and aluminum market is so intense across the Canada-US border that millions of jobs on both sides of the border depend on continued smooth flow of trades.
But how do you make sure that they stay permanent? This is very conditional, as the president has said.
We're going to keep talking about NAFTA. We don't link together the tariffs and the negotiations of NAFTA, but we're happy to continue to move forward on the negotiations. But really just highlighting that imposition of tariffs on Canada would end up hurting the U.S. Almost as much as it would hurt Canada.
Now, I've been talking to a few people in industry, the CEO of a steel company in Hamilton last week. I've also talked to the president of the Aluminum Association here. They say that the uncertainty, not knowing whether these tariffs are going to be permanent or not, are already causing uncertainty in their industries and preventing some investment. How long do you let this go on for? Can you give us an answer? How do you make it permanent?
That's one of the reasons I'm here, to actually reassure the workers that we have their back, that we know how hard and how great they're working on it. And there's all sorts of concerns in the United States around overcapacity from China. Well, we have those capacities, and over the past 2 years I've been Prime Minister, we've actually strengthened our border controls on imports of steel from China. We've brought in new measures, and we're happy to do more on that. But the point that we're making throughout is that whether it's on the steel and aluminum industry, or whether it's the national security side, where we have an Air Force base just a few kilometers from here that was brought in to protect these for the war effort in World War II. There's a level of integration and connection that means we're gonna keep having each other's back.
And I think that's undeniable, except that I think that Canada has a lot more at stake here, being a much smaller economy than the U.S. economy. And I know that you and Minister Freeland have said that you wouldn't be shy to take retaliatory measures if these tariffs were to go into place. Can you share what are those retaliatory measures?
Oh, I'm going to stand up for Canadian interests, but right now we're able to move forward, and we have the president saying that he's not moving forward with tariffs. And it's not just because it would hurt Canada, but because it would hurt the United States as well. We're going to stay at the negotiating table as we have been on NAFTA, and we will move forward in a way that benefits us all.
But what I'm hearing from you is that you want to keep NAFTA and the tariffs on separate tracks, but President Trump is saying a very different thing, saying that the tariffs depend on NAFTA. Are you at an impasse? Where do you come to an agreement here?
Not at all. We're happy to continue to move forward on NAFTA. We've made some really great advances over the past few weeks in terms of closing a lot of chapters, and there's more to do in the coming weeks. I'm excited about the pace we're on in NAFTA, and very hopeful we're going to be able to improve it and negotiate it so it's up to date in a way that is win-win-win for all of our countries.
You've said previously a few times that Canada would be willing to walk away from NAFTA if the negotiations didn't go in Canada's interest. Has that changed, though, now that the tariffs are linked in? Are you still willing to say that Canada would walk away?
What I've always said is that we're going to make sure that it's the right deal for Canada, but the right deal for Canada also is a good deal for the United States. There's no country in the world that has a greater vested interest in the U.S. doing well than Canada doing well, because we're so linked.
Are you still willing to walk away from those negotiations?
We've never been willing to walk away. We've always been willing to sit down and work meaningfully and constructively at the table. We've also clearly said that it has to be a good deal for Canada if we're going to sign on, but we're going to work until we get to that deal.
So what does that look like if it's not a good deal for Canada? What does it look like? What will Canada do? Surely you must have given this some thought.
These are negotiations, and we're going to continue talking about the ways where better integration of our economies, better opportunities for workers on both sides of our border is something that we can get to. Trade has been good for Canada and the U.S. This partnership has been great for Canada and the U.S. We're going to continue that by updating NAFTA, and it's so clear that there is a positive outcome for all of our countries at the end of this that I'm very confident we're going to meet it.
Are you frustrated that you have not got a deal already?
It's these are deals that usually are measured in 7-8 years to negotiate. I think we're doing very, very well over the past year in getting close, and we're going to keep the pedal to the metal in the next couple of weeks.
Fair enough. Let me ask you a little bit about dealing with President Trump and his administration. You just told a room full of aluminum workers here that you have their backs, that you're constantly talking to the president and people within the administration. Some have called his tactics economic bullying, though. How do you view that?
You know,
Would you agree?
I think the important thing for me is to always stand up for Canadian jobs and Canadian interests, and the president understands that and respects that. Whenever I do that, he gets that, but he also gets, and I get, that standing up for Canadian jobs and standing up for American jobs is not incompatible. We have always worked together, and we will.
Yet your method has been very different. President takes to Twitter a lot to voice his support for industry and workers there. I know that a lot of the work has been done behind closed doors, especially to win this exemption, but do you think that you need to be more forceful? I've talked to workers who say they want to know that you're going to be tough on this issue, as tough as the president is.
I have been unequivocal about standing up for Canadian workers, standing up for Canadian interests. My job is to make sure that we have a good relationship with the United States that results in good outcomes for Canadians and for workers. That's what I've been doing for the past 2 years that I've been elected. That's what I'm going to continue to do.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the domestic issues going on in Canada right now. Your approval rating down a little bit. Doug Ford, just elected head of the Ontario PC party. India, a bit of a debacle. Now you're dealing with the threat of a trade war. Can you really afford to be in conflict with our biggest trading partner or in disagreement?
But we're not in disagreement. The president and I have a similar focus on protecting jobs that we're responsible
on NAFTA,
for.
are you not?
No, we're moving towards a better deal for everyone. It's something we entirely agree on.
And so is Canada willing to make some concessions in NAFTA to get a deal
done? These are negotiations. We're always willing to negotiate and to move forward in a way that works for everyone.
Where are you willing to negotiate? On things like dairy? And
I'm going to negotiate at the negotiation table, not in the media.
Okay. Another concern that some of the industry here has, both aluminum and steel, and I know you talked about this a little bit, is Canada becoming a backdoor for cheap metals. How do you prevent that from happening?
We've been working hard on preventing that for the past years. We also are very worried about the global oversupply, about China dumping and other places dumping their steel and aluminum, and it's affected our workers here. So we've put in very strong measures, some of the strongest in the world, against dumping. But as I said to the president, as I said to congressional leadership, I'm happy to work with the United States to go even further with them.
And at risk, though, of maybe angering some of Canada's other trading partners like China. So how do you negotiate the relationship here when NAFTA looks uncertain, but Canada has just signed on to the TPP? Tell me a little bit about this balancing act and how you choose.
We have always been unequivocal about standing up for Canadian interests, Canadian jobs. We've done that consistently with the Chinese on dumping of steel. We've done that consistently with all of our partners. We're looking for good trade deals around the world that benefit both sides of the trade deal. That's something that we've been able to sign with Europe. We've moved forward with the CPTPP. We're looking towards South America. Canada is a trading nation. We're continuing to do that. But our closest ally, our best friend, our most important trading partner is the United States, and that will always remain.
Okay. Our best trading partner, oldest ally, but does it concern you that nationalists seem to be in power at the White House? Is it becoming more difficult to negotiate?
The U.S. through history has always gone through phases where it's been more protectionist, more open, more protectionist. Canada has endured as a friend, an ally, and trading partner to the United States. The U.S. still sells more to Canada than it does to China, Japan, and the U.K. combined. We are your number one customer in so many ways. We're going to continue to work very well with you regardless of the perspective in the White House.
Okay, let me ask you a little bit about the investment environment in Canada. I know you said earlier this year at Davos that Canada will not be following suit in terms of some of the things the U.S. is doing, like tax cuts and regulatory changes. Is this putting Canada at a disadvantage, especially when we're seeing foreign investment drop and, the average corporate tax rate narrow very much between the two countries?
We still have lower corporate tax rates than in the United States, but more than that, we have an economy that is open to immigration. We actually have a global skills strategy that allows companies coming to Canada to bring in their top talent from around the world, because we know that means you're also going to hire up local talent. We know we have having strong trade deals around the world, whether it's the European Union, which is a market of 500 million people, or the CPTPP, which across Asia, which is another market of almost 500 million people. Canada Canada is a great place to do business. We're making world-class investments in AI and quantum. We're building the future here.
Really showing that. I'm talking about direct investment. I'm talking about the corporate tax rate. I'm even talking about markets, the Canadian markets underperforming global markets for the last decade, and particularly
well, the past decade was a challenge in that we had a government that didn't necessarily bring us in the right direction. And over the past 2 years, I've brought us to be a lot more innovative, and we have the fastest growing economy in the G7 right now. We have the lowest unemployment rate that we've had in 40 years. We're doing this by putting more money in the pockets of the middle class and those working hard to join it, by raising taxes on the wealthiest 1%, because that's actually helping our economy grow.
Prime Minister, thank you very much for being with us today. We really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.
Guys, back over to you in New York.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.